Welcome to Spirit Baby Radio. I am your host, Kelly Meehan, a citizen of the universe and a passage keeper and mentor for our new Earth children. I believe we are entering into a new psychic structure of our reality, and it is meant to embody deeper trust and ways into solid self-love and fearless integrity. Our new world energy of spirit babies needs us to consciously create within conception, trust pregnancy, and have freedom to birth and parent from innate wisdom. This is Spirit Baby Radio. Welcome to episode 216, May 2025, Accessing Your Magic Mama, Quantum and Beyond for Healing Your Fertility into Birth. How can you reclaim your power? What does it take to shift your mindset? Are you ready to be free from your own obstacles? What do you need next to create with your baby? Special guest, Mel Brown. Hi.
Hello.
So, my special guest, Mel's successful career in real estate led her to a fundamental discovery. She's an empath. Now, as a medical Reiki Master, certified 200-hour yoga teacher, registered pre and postnatal yoga teacher, mindful educator, Mel's warm and welcoming presence has been the shining light to so many, offering empathic and intuitive support to illuminate the paths of others on their journeys. Her relentless dedication to educating individuals about their energy and emotional bodies to help them heal from within is not only her passion, but her life's mission. Mel infuses her love and enthusiasm for Reiki and mindfulness in the hearts of everyone she encounters. Upon becoming pregnant, Mel applied her knowledge she accumulated over a decade throughout her pregnancy, childbirth, and now as a mother. Mel's unwavering belief that is a higher guiding force is the orchestra of her lives encouraged others to relinquish the need to control every outcome, allowing them to embrace the magic both around and within them. And you can too. Wonderful. Thank you, Mel, for being here.
Oh, I am so thrilled, Kelly. Thank you so much for having me.
And what we connected, I think it was on Instagram, right?
I
And
stalked
then
you.
there we go.
I slid up into your DMs.
Yeah, there you go. And I was just like, I think I even may have left you a voice text or something about your energy. I
Yeah.
was like, okay, yeah, let's do this. And I'm very like, I could be really difficult when it comes to, I feel like who comes on the podcast because like, people are like, but I want to know people. Like, I want to
Sure.
know that there's real people. And it was really fun connecting with you and just learning about your work. And I just literally purchased her book. I know we're going to go into that in a moment, but I want to hear. I was very intrigued. I mean, you're, all about pregnancy and birthing and your own telepathic spirit baby connections with your son, right? Is your son.
Yes.
And something else like really got my attention was it medical Reiki?
hmm
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
so
tell me more.
yeah, absolutely. So I'm a medical Reiki master trained by the esteemed Raven Keys, who has since transitioned. But she was one of the first, well, actually, the first to do Reiki in the OR. And the doctor that actually she was working alongside was Dr. Oz. I think everybody listening to this has
Yeah.
probably heard of him by now. If
Yes.
not, you should Google him. Um, but so Dr. Oz really got on board as, wellness, and she really was the trailblazer to bring Reiki, which people have deemed as woo woo. Now we're starting to debunk that idea, which is certainly something that I'm passionate about. And she was able to bring the Eastern side of Reiki into the Western facilities and really was the trailblazer to lead the way on that. So I got certified with her after I was already a Reiki master to do that. And then so now I've been trained to do Reiki in the OR, which I have not done because COVID. I'll just leave that there. So we're finally at the place where we've been able to do that. But then I became pregnant and have been a mom, and I mom really hard, as my husband says. And then,
Aw.
writing the book last year. So I'm just really here in 2020, I've started my mojo back of really, living out my life's work. And that's really the medical Reiki story.
That's amazing. I don't think I really knew the story, but I didn't even know. I knew years ago that they allowed Reiki training for nurses, which I thought was
hmm
really
They really
progressive.
should do that
No,
for
well, I saw
everybody.
that.
Like it should
Yeah,
be a
yeah,
commonality.
that's
It should be
yes,
like a
yes.
requirement, you know?
No, that's kind of reminds me of like, and I know in some of the bigger city, the hospitals putting in a doula for everybody or having a doula
Hmm.
option. I know out of America and other countries, they have like in Europe, European, Finland, Netherlands area, they have postpartum doulas just normally for their community, so they can keep, keep everybody sane and healthy, really, like and cared for. Which,
Right.
we weren't going to get into that story about what America does, but it's kind of like it's so pushed to work, work, work.
Hmm.
But this, yeah, I didn't even know they did Reiki in the OR, and that's amazing, really. I'm like, wow, like that's impressive. And um, I want to
Well, and the
encourage,
Reiki
yeah,
energy is going to reverberate not only to the client who, you're working on, but it
yeah,
reverberates throughout the room.
yes.
And everybody has their own baggage and you try to leave it at the door, but if they had a bad day or an argument with their spouse the night before, they're bringing that energy into the OR. So it was really beautiful, the ripple effect that it was able to create for many, not just
Yeah,
the patient.
and you're right. We're so connected, like you can't avoid that. It reminds me of
Mm-mm.
childbirth when there's like, in a hospital setting where what if like, yeah, somebody's in a bad mood or they've lost someone and they're in grief, like
Yeah.
they're in the space together. It's just there. And I really
Yeah.
love like how Reiki's even brought into in a lot of doulas I've met throughout the years there. I was like, if you don't have an energy modality as a doula, like not to be mean, but like get out of the work. Like get like what are you doing? We are like so evolving on the deepest levels right now consciously. That's why everything is changing so rapidly.
Mm-hmm.
That's why people like they're trying to hold on to the way that we did things in the 1950s and they're like, "No, this is we got to do this, we got to do that. It's bad." And then it's like, have we seen that we're not that consciousness anymore? And I feel like people are
Right.
getting there, but I'd love to hear more about now that we're talking about Reiki is how you integrate that with others.
Oh, where do I begin with that? I just really eat, breathe, sleep Reiki. Like once I became Reiki certified in 2019, there was no looking back. I fully embodied it. When I got certified, it was like a homecoming for me.
Mm,
It's like every cell of my body just knew this is within us. This sustains all life force. And it just clicked. So I've worked with a gamut of clients over the years from those also working through infertility, which we can talk more about that since that's certainly your wheelhouse. Those who have been battling cancer, undergoing chemo, it's really helped with their anxiety and their process. I've worked with children, expectant mothers, I've worked with professional athletes. It is an integral part in my family. Not only do I keep band-aids in the closet, but I also keep some extra Reiki doses in there that I pull out and get ready to put to work to heal all the boo-boos.
yeah.
But it's become a staple. It's a way of life.
I feel like that's your next book when you just said eat, breathe, what is it? Breathe Reiki, sleep
Eat,
Reiki.
yeah, instead of eat, pray, love.
Yeah, yeah. I love that. But it's true. You may it's really valuable. And we were talking behind the scenes before is like everything is energy. And why
Mhm.
would, even you can be skeptical. It doesn't matter. There's still a force of energy, right? I mean, it's still there. It's like,
Right. Well, and my favorite when those that don't believe in energy work, let's
yeah.
just keep it simple there.
Okay.
I say to them, how many times have you walked into a room and you've said, oh, you could cut the energy in here with a knife?
Mm,
You don't see the energy, but
mm,
you feel the energy of the disgruntlement, the argument, the grief in the room, what have you. Everyone has felt energy.
mm,
And so when you take past, we were connected here on Zoom doing this podcast. Are you seeing the Wi-Fi waves? No, but it's working.
mm.
So when you
Yeah.
think about everything around us, you may not physically see it, but you feel it. In the Wi-Fi case, it's clearly working because here we are connected.
Yeah, that's a great example. And you make me think, I actually just bought an EMF reader to show
Mm-hmm.
the kid. I wanted the kids to understand how energy works too. and what
Right.
it looks like. And, there were some areas we found that had a lot of EMFs, and other areas we thought wood didn't, which was
Right.
very interesting, right? And then, of course,
Mm-hmm.
my older son's like, "Can we go to a cemetery?" Let's take it to, I go, "Yeah, we could. Let's go take it to a cemetery." But I said, I think you're
Yeah.
going to pick up a lot of metals and
Right.
certain instruments in a lot of these older spaces because we have to rule out in the paranormal, like, I don't know if it's an EMF reader that can pick up energy of people or like how
I
that
don't
works or
know.
what their
Yeah.
field is. Like, what is their field
Right.
giving out that's different?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But it's definitely, I love your example. It's true. We're like, but again, if you get an EMF reader and you put it next to the Wi-Fi router, it made a noise I never heard. I thought the machine was going to explode. I was like, "Oh," because it wasn't giving that much off the other devices in the house. And it was
Right.
surprising. I actually didn't realize even plugged in things.
Mm-hmm.
So I would even encourage people if they're worried about that is like keep things unplugged.
For sure. And I
Yeah.
actually have a lot of, I always say it incorrectly, shungite. I have
Oh
shungite
yeah.
crystals.
Yeah.
I have some tourmaline. I have selenite because that also cleanses the
Yeah.
space. But tourmaline and shungite, great EMF protector. So I even have like baby monitors put off a lot of EMFs. So I actually have
Yes.
one right
Yes.
beside that in my son's room, and sprinkled throughout the home as well.
Yeah, that's a good point because we don't realize that because it's such a different time. And that's what I was telling my children.
Hmm.
It's like it's you're carrying like my older son got a phone and so it's like he's at that age, but I said it's like a little microwave
Right.
in your pocket.
Hmm. Hmm.
I'm like, I'm a little concerned about that, but luckily
Right.
we have a different system. Like he doesn't hold it on his body.
Oh, good.
And then he goes to holistic education. They don't have phones in class, which is
Good.
fine. Like I think
Right.
just to touch on that with kids because yours is so young, but it's like if
Hmm.
we're not creating the influence at a young age, doesn't mean we're not going to mess up. But it's like, oh, this is what we do, and I don't care if other people do it. It's like you're
Right.
not, But it is. It's like it's such a different time of toxicities, emotional, physical,
Hmm.
environmental, and we have to look at those. But and I feel like Reiki can, even work on that deep level of helping clear toxicities, coming back to Reiki here, but
Yeah, no, it
no.
absolutely does. And the way that I describe Reiki to people, because Reiki does help the body heal physically. And
Mm.
remember, and if you haven't, please go do it if you're listening to this. But do you remember, Kelly, or have you done this, where you would go to like a local gold mine and you would pan for gold
Mm.
and you're sifting the pan back and
Mm-hmm.
forth? Think of your cells in your body. Reiki is a high vibration
Mm.
oscillating your cells rapidly to sift the toxins out of your
Mm.
body. And so that is the healing side of Reiki is it's eliminating those toxins through your
Mm.
urine, your gastric juices, your sweat, allowing your body its natural ability to heal itself.
Mm.
Along with that, another way I describe Reiki to people is let's say you're driving down the road and your car is veering to the left, and you're like, oh gosh, okay. And you're kind of taking your assessment. And then you realize, I think my car's out of alignment. So you take your car to the mechanic, and the mechanic confirms that your car is, in fact, out of alignment. Then they do their skilled mechanic thing, and you get back in your car, and your car is now driving the way that it's intended to. Think of Reiki as a skilled mechanic for your body. So
Mm.
many things create imbalances in the body. It could be a physical trauma, an emotional trauma, toxic thoughts. Every
Mm.
thought we have generates a unique frequency. When you have the lower vibrations, of talking negatively to yourself, that creates toxic body, that's creating an energetic alignment issue. So all of these things are a factor, and then when you give yourself Reiki or you receive a Reiki session, that is what's bringing the energy body back into alignment. So everything is firing. Since we've been talking about Wi-Fi, the Wi-Fi is firing on all cylinders the way it's intended to. And then when everything is operating in alignment energetically, dis-ease, ailments, and certainly diseases cannot reside there because Reiki is bringing your body back to homeostasis.
Mm.
And so we live in a constant state of fight or flight. That's just, it's part of our primitive brain, that lizard brain. So
Mm,
that's just in our biology. But then everything that's thrown at us throughout the day and just living life and the stresses and, the toxicity of what is being shown on the news and social media and all of these things that we're constantly taking in, we weren't designed that way. So all of those bog us down. So you have to sift through it and
yeah.
realign yourself to reconnect and reground.
Yeah, I think it's such a beautiful description. It's probably why you teach Reiki. I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, it's just a lovely way you've really gone into the details and explanation of it. And, as you're saying that, I'm thinking about like training the family. Like my husband, I had
Hmm.
him I had him trained. I asked him if he would do integrative energy therapy at the time. I don't know if
Hmm.
you're familiar with that one, IET.
Hmm.
And he
Hmm.
did. And when our son was born, we did IET with each other and on the
Beautiful.
baby. And it was really, and we needed it because we had a very challenging birth and experience. So it was like
Mm.
really pure and loving to do that. But I want to hear, did you use Reiki in your fertility journey or was it more in pregnancy? What can you say about that?
I it's kind of a tough thing because I don't want to offend anybody because I do know so many people have a lot of infertility. Um, and I really empathize with those. And I've worked with a lot of clients that have been struggling. For us, it just like literally happened overnight. But I do believe that a lot of that was because even though I never planned on becoming a mother, um, when once we had decided we were kind of like starting to talk about, we'd already been together like 15 years, married for 11 or what have you. So we were like, well, I guess, we've kind of done everything, checked the box, got the t-shirts, like let's maybe have a new chapter in life. And I really, in my heart of hearts, believe that because I worked on clearing so much generational trauma, which I actually have worked on trauma from my vocabulary, and I talk about this a lot in my book, is I've changed it to emotional imprints. Because for me
Oh, yeah.
personally, trauma roots me in the past, and I'm looking on the trajectory of taking my energy forward. And so emotional imprints helps me recognize what happened to me or my family, but it doesn't identify me. And that was
Mm,
a really big thing for me in my personal journey of healing. But I spent a lot of time, Kelly, before we'd even talked about the idea of becoming parents
yeah.
to clear energy generationally, and then certainly of, emotional imprints that had happened to me throughout my childhood. And so when we had decided that we were ready, my energy body was very balanced at that time. And I think there's something to be said for that. So we certainly were ready and went forward with that. And then during pregnancy, I gave myself Reiki time. And I had actually intuitively connected and telepathically with a little girl, which is what prompted this whole idea that, hey, let's start a family. And when we went for our ultrasound and all of that, and I was like giving myself Reiki one night, and I was only maybe 6, 7 weeks pregnant. It was very early. And all of a sudden, I felt a huge wave of masculine energy. And I was like, oh, I am sorry I've been calling you a girl because you are absolutely a boy. Like, there
Wow.
is no denying this. And so then I was confused because I'm like, now I'm
Yeah.
having a boy. But I gave him Reiki all the time. I
Mm,
sang to him, I read to him, ethically communicated. And what's been really neat is I journaled to him a lot. And sometimes it was just like,
mm,
hey, this was my, appointment today. This is what size you are,
yeah,
or
that's
what was
sweet.
going on.
Yeah.
And one day, hopefully, he wants to keep it. But I have all
Hmm.
these journals that he can reflect back on and that I've
Wow.
certainly reflected back on during that time. But things that he telepathically communicated to me about his personality while he was in the
Mm,
womb have actually come true with him 19 months old now.
wow. I love that.
It's really,
What kind of
really
things
neat.
can you recall? Do you remember what he
Just certain
shared?
things about like his
Oh,
personality. Like
okay, yeah.
he's very much he's sensitive. like he's energetically sensitive, and he's also very like, if you're just use a stern tone with him, he's like, I got it.
Oh,
He's not
yeah.
a, I mean, he's only 19 months. I'm sure he's
Yeah.
going to push my buttons at some point, right? But if you
Yeah.
tell him no, he listens.
Mm.
Like he's just very, he's an old soul. You could just tell, like the way his brain is like processing and computing
Mm.
everything so quickly. It's fascinating to watch.
Wow. I love
Mm-hmm.
that you have that. It's so beautiful that you have the journals to be like
Mm-hmm.
me and my husband, we what I think we did it with both children. Yeah. We wrote them letters the day
Love
they were
that.
born and we sealed them so
Mm-hmm.
that someday they can open them and look at them and it's like, wow. And I love somebody was just telling me they were like I don't know how old they were, but they said, "Oh, I watched my maybe they were in their 30s. They said I watched my birth. My parents video recorded it." I was like, "What? Like that's awesome."
Yeah.
Like to be an adult and see that connection, like
Mm-hmm.
and I love that because I feel like maybe some of us like me, everything feels lost in time.
Mm-hmm.
And it feels like, I know my parents they kind of were forged through trauma. So they just were kind of, living in those moments of whatever it was. But
Sure.
now I feel like I say that because I'm hoping others can tune in and go, oh, that would be really beautiful to connect
Mm-hmm.
and do that journaling or write letters or, you know, I don't know. I feel like vlogs now. You could do like video, like here's how you
Yeah.
are. But so Reiki, you did energy healing a lot with yourself naturally, and it sounds like, yeah, you were sharing about that emotional piece in the book. Actually, tell everybody your book now, and we'll share it again later too. What's your title, and where can people get
Yes.
it?
Absolutely. So it's Magic Mama, an energetic and mindful approach to pregnancy and motherhood. And it's available on Amazon, Barnes and Noble. Amazon, of course, is where usually people buy, which I was
Yeah.
very grateful and honestly shocked that it was an Amazon #1 new release in multiple categories,
Wow.
which was just very surprising and very humbling.
Yeah.
I just was like, wow. And the reason that I wrote the book, honestly, Kelly, is because there was a void in what I was searching for
Yeah.
when I became pregnant. And there was all this information on what to eat, what not to eat, what exercises to do, what not to do. And I'm like, there is just so much more here in this
Mm,
experience that needs to be shared. Um, and that's really when I was like, I'm going to create this for other people
mm,
because the energy side of things is a huge piece. Like I was touching on, those who are struggling for infertility. Really, please do yourself a favor
mm,
and just explore the emotional and energetic body
mm,
because everything is energy. As we touched on earlier, every thought creates an energetic frequency for negative or positive. Every emotion we have, emotions are just energy in motion.
mm,
And when these things happen, they store in the
mm,
body, and that creates energetic disruption. And when you just continue to live in that and it compounds and compounds and
mm.
compounds, you're having to sift through the deep. Here I'm in North Carolina. I think of like the deep, thick North Carolina red clay. Um, but you're like sifting through all of this, and you have to sift through the heavy energy and the
Mm.
heavy emotions that are stored and bogging down your energy body from being in the alignment, going back to the car reference,
Yeah.
so it can do what your body is designed to do. And,
Mm,
I want to say, actually, Kelly, it may have been your previous episode where she had spoken about generational things,
mm,
past life things can hinder the conception in this lifetime. So, doing these things, such as modalities, if Reiki is not your thing, I won't take offense. Shame on you. Just kidding. I won't take offense. Uh, But certainly explore other modalities that resonate with you, whether it be acupuncture, just listening to Hertz frequency, something that resonates to be able to clear your emotional body to get you ready for conception. And another thing is, are you living a lifestyle that is becoming a nurturing, safe womb for a baby to come into?
Mm,
You know, if you're not working through the emotional imprints that you've personally experienced, a soul probably is not going to be ready to just dive into the swimming pool of the womb because that's a lot for them to carry. And when
mm,
you go into epigenetics, if you want to touch on some of the science side of things, there was a really interesting study done. I want to say it was the University of Pennsylvania, and mothers from 9/11 and the women who were in their second or third trimester, and they may have not been right there with the Twin Towers, but they were in the vicinity, and the
mm,
trauma, the PTSD carried had then been passed down through genetics to their children. Because what we need to understand to take out the woo woo of energy is these things, these emotional imprints change the actual gene expression within the DNA.
mm.
And so that is a way deeper conversation than we probably have time for. And I've only scratched the surface in my own education, but it certainly plays an integral part in my Reiki practice and my own journey, and then explaining it to, clients, etc., and certainly my Reiki students. Um, so that's just a really big part that for me, people educating themselves on the energetic and emotional body, because that does play a part physically. And I just feel like there's no way of denying that.
Yeah,
Like
and
it
this
just
is
comes back to
yeah.
science because everything is intrinsically connected. You
Mm.
cannot separate the mind from the body. It is all one. We say mind, body, soul, but it's really all one.
So you're reminding me when you say that, like, yeah, these different, I know we all have generational traumas, of course, right? And but just that 9/11 that you shared, that was really I hear stories like this around war situations and things in generational, and it is a really challenging place, but there's a truth to it. But I know epigenetics, yeah, it is a new study too, and it is a whole
Hmm.
like area of curiosity. I always think of Bruce Lipton, of course, when I think of
Yes,
yeah, when I think of that, and his work is really great to learn about if those that are tuning in are like, well, I want to learn more about this. But you touch a little
he's
bit
an
in your
excellent
book.
resource.
Yeah. You touch a
Hmm.
little bit in your book about epigenetics too, or?
I do.
Okay.
I do touch on that briefly, just because, my book, there's so much to cover there. I really break down the energy body. I talk about Reiki, obviously, and then the energy body, and then the emotional body,
Mm,
and then the mindfulness piece. And the first 7 chapters of my book really are applicable to anyone on the planet, whether they
mm,
are expecting, want to be a mother, thinking about conception, if you just want a really good read to have a deeper understanding of the emotional and energetic body, I highly encourage it. That is a self plug. We'll leave it for what it is. But the mindfulness piece is really huge.
mm,
And we all know that one person that they just seem to always have the black cloud following them.
mm,
Nothing in life seems to go their way. And if you really peel back the layers of the onion on that, it starts with the mindset. It
mm,
starts with the words they're speaking. All of these things are essential to your physical body. So, again, if you are looking to conceive, think about how you're speaking to yourself. What thoughts are you creating? I really dive deep into the book on mental rehearsal. What are you mentally
mm,
rehearsing from a neuroscience perspective? Are you
mm,
weakening the neural pathways in the brain? Or are you strengthening them to think it will be easy for me to get pregnant? I have a safe womb for this baby to enter. All of these positive affirmations train your brain
mm,
for your physical body to then, because again, it's a frequency. So you have the thought, and then now it's communicating to your physical body. So everything is working together in harmony instead of my physical body. I'm, taking these prenatal supplements and I'm doing all these things, but then you have all of these toxic thoughts or verbal communication to yourself. They had done a study on snowflakes of water droplets, and when they spoke negatively to these water droplets, they were distorted. But when they spoke beautiful, positive affirmations, complimented them, they turned into these beautiful snowflakes. So your
I know
body's
I've
the
seen
same.
that. I know I've seen that. And
Mm-hmm.
I've seen the crystals. I'm like, wow. I was like, we should replicate that, me and the kids, just to see, just to
Right.
learn.
That
Like,
would be
because
a fun
literally the
project.
other, like, I think it was like a day or two ago, my older son said something about water. Like, oh, I don't need that water. And I go, did you know that your body has so much made up of so much water? Like, it was
Mm-hmm.
really interesting. It's like, it's kind of like the thinking about the Wi-Fi. It's like, well, I don't, but it's like, yeah, but you don't see it, but it's a part of you and you need hydration. And
Right.
but I feel like yeah, you're just reminding us of the impact of emotions and even other elements like we're plasma and blood and cells and energy like all together. What I've learned is that something I teach about is when we're looking at our body, it's like we're body, we're bones, we're blood. And when you keep going smaller and smaller into the cell,
Mm-hmm.
you go into
Mm-hmm.
quantum physics and it's like,
Yep.
oh, well, what is the atom and the nucleus and beyond the cell? It's light.
Yeah.
And it's like, um, uh, okay, so then that means we're literally reverberating, whatever, vibrational, really just coming together to form and move and do things out of being
Mhm.
from light, right?
Yes. Oh, I love that. Because that's the thing. We all are light.
Yeah.
We are all light. Oh,
Yeah.
I love quantum. And now I'm like, my brain is going down the rabbit hole of quantum entanglement
hmm
because that's something that even and I had this conversation, it was probably a year ago, and he was like, I'm even more confused by this now than when I started. And he was like Googling and down a deep rabbit hole too, which is way over our pay grade. Like, I really admire these brilliant brains.
Yeah.
But the fact that these particles that are light years away have an influence on one another, how can you
Mm.
not believe that energy in a room wouldn't have the same effect? That's why we
Yes.
that apple spoils the group. It's because they have bad energy.
No, it's so intense, right? But it's true. Like I think of the women that I support on a fertility journey and they're trying really hard, trying to be positive, but I tell them it's okay to be negative sometimes too. It's like, but you don't
Sure.
want that to be your baseline. And
Right.
I mean, I have to use the I mean, my best example is my mom. She was super negative like the last many years of her life, and it was very like oh, like everything was either a complaint, but I also knew that she had mental illness, right? Because she had trauma as a
Mm-hmm.
child, and so that trauma really impacted her nervous system, her
Mm,
neurological abilities. So then when I would hang out with her, she'd always say, "I feel so good. I want you to be around here more." And for me, it was like it was almost like I had to hold my breath. My body would I'd go into the spaces with her because she's my mom. And for so many other reasons, we had such a big healing journey in this lifetime together.
mm,
But I also
mm,
felt manipulated and abused by it at times too. And I could
mm.
really, looking at that, I was like, whoa, I'm like, this is really intense, this um, negative force that people do get looped into and they get comfortable
Right.
in it. And I
Right.
think like
Right.
me and you, I will call people out on it if they're coming to me. If it's like, oh, what is this energy? Like, how do you then, but it does take sometimes mind discipline as you were, I think use a
Mm,
different wording for it. But I think as human beings, we are just like baby beings, they are love embodied.
mm-hmm.
And I know that we all have different birth stories and mother and father stories, and that really form like our lack of self-love is like really the biggest sickness in this world.
Yep.
Um, but it's also, I know personally, like I'm like, yeah, it's hard to wanna to ground into that when you felt like maybe you've never received it. So then you're like
Mm-hmm.
looking for like, well, what does that even mean? And I
Right.
know that like having my children was like, holy wow, like they are just the you know, powerful, like light energy of love in a way that it was like, can I even hold and sustain that love? Like without
Yeah.
rejecting it, without just like being present, because it's like, but it takes definitely deep self-work and grounding to go, because we don't want to repeat the patterns and we will slightly,
No.
but we don't have to, right? It's like,
Right.
And I know these women with infertility and birth loss even is in that. It's like
Hmm.
the self-blame, the self like
Oh,
loathing, the self
right.
like even I would even say self-hate in that. Like my body's not working, my ovaries are screwed up and my uterus
Hmm.
and as we know from an emotional energetic perspective, sometimes it has zero to do with your uterus and ovaries. But in this
Right.
world, everybody's pushed to do intervention. And a
Right.
lot of these women that do, and I know those that are tuning in, and I work a lot with women who are going through intervention, is that it's having to find that space of like, yeah, is this for me or not? Like, don't just run and do it because everybody else is doing it, because we
Right.
change the trajectory of our own frequency when we dabble too much with the energy of this world. And
Hmm.
that's I mean, there's
Hmm.
there's something deeper in that for each individual. And once someone's locked in to the coercion or the dreaminess of that possibility, then their
Hmm.
frequency gets hooked into it in a way where you could try to shift out of it, but if it already feels like you're in it, now you're having to, it's like going to another country, learning a different language, we can say, and learning the culture, and you're like, oh, I don't know. And I do feel like frequencies are set up that way. And
Right.
I say that because I'm not discouraging intervention. I do think intervention is way overused in this world with not just fertility now more than ever because of technology, but
Right.
also in birth in hospitals when babies
Right.
are
Oh.
born. It's like
Hmm.
there's fashionable, I call them fashionable myths or like trends.
Hmm.
Trends. Like right now,
Hmm.
everybody's getting induced. It is a trend, and I don't care if people get mad at me for saying it. It's a trend, and we have to then shift out of that consciousness. What do you think happens when we're forcing children to be born? Like you were talking about epigenetics, like what are we doing? And it reminds me of animals. Think about what I know, I think it's in California if a bear comes in someone's yard or attacks a dog or cat, well, guess what? That animal's probably going to be killed because
Hmm.
that animal now has an awareness and a connection to kill, like, and then what happens is, and this is also with the mountain lions, it's like if anything happens, even if it's like not even the person's fault, but like it's, and it's like, well, now that animal has some awareness and they pass it on to their
Hmm.
offspring. And you
Hmm.
think about that.
Exactly.
Yeah, and it's the same
Yep.
idea to me. It's like this is what we're doing. And so we can like I had a horrible way I was born and there was extreme intervention, but I had to
Mm.
work my ass off to not create that same story because my energy body was in connection with that reality. And it's not logical. You can't break it from your brain. It's just literally this just biological response. And so for me to
Mhm.
change the lineage of the story of the way my mom birthed is monumental, to be honest. And it was the
Absolutely.
hardest thing I've ever had to do. I'm like not lying.
Right. You've touched on so many things that I definitely want to add to, and that was a lot of for me. I was like, "Oh, I'm so entranced in this. This is lovely." Um, the first thing that came to mind as you were talking about it becomes a trend. One of the best things that I feel that I adopted for myself during pregnancy was keep your eyes on your own paper method.
Mm.
And because, of course, Instagram algorithms just inundated me with rock onto these moms with six pack abs, with
Mm.
being 6 months pregnant, but that was not my story. And the way everybody else was doing things, even the same with parenting. There's going to be things that I'm going to do differently than others, and they may think I'm off my rocker, and that's okay. But that's what is right for me and my family. And so when you really adopt the keep your eyes on your own paper approach,
Mm. Mhm.
you erase your influences because it's not about anybody else. It's when you're still carrying your baby, it's you and your womb. Your
Yeah.
womb is there to nurture, and that is
Mm.
emotional, energetic,
Mm.
physical. Again, it's all intrinsically connected. It is all one. So that was the one thing I wanted to touch on. The other thing of you talking about too for the epigenetic side is really understanding the ramifications energetically and emotionally for essentially extracting a baby before they're ready. I've spoken with quite a few people who have been newer mothers, and it's also I never realized how many traumatic birth experience happened until I became pregnant. And then everybody
Mm.
wanted to share this with me. And I
Yeah,
would tell
interesting.
them, yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm like, thank you. I appreciate that I'm a safe space for you and you wanting to share that for me. But I was very clear with boundaries that my pregnancy was a very energetic and mindful, and I did not welcome those conversations. I
I'm
gave
with
birth.
you on that. I want to
Yeah,
I want to jump in there because I know those
yeah,
that are tuning in, and I've said this, like your connection here is just yours. I also had very fearful things come to me like, Kelly, don't give a homework, don't do that. I was like, whoa, I'm like giving
right,
their energy back to them. And I'm like, that's not my
right,
story. And
right.
if you're like one of those people and you're going, oh shit, I've done that. Don't do that to women. Don't go
Mm-mm.
out there and don't invite yourself, whether it's a mother, a mother-in-law, father-in-law. Nobody is in that space. They don't live in your body. That's the number one thing. You are living in your
Yeah,
body and you are tuning in, whether it's a hospital birth, whether it's a free birth, home birth, like it is your connection. And don't listen to other people's bullshit. Like I can't handle it.
right.
Like
Right. And it just it boggled me how many people really pushed their own negative experiences. And there were so many times that I just
because they
became a little more
haven't.
reclusive.
Did you
Right.
feel
But
like because
I'm
they didn't have an outlet or they're like they think they're warning you, but it's their trigger.
yeah.
Yeah, you're
Hmm.
like,
That's you hit it. Yes,
yeah,
exactly. Yeah. But I think it's important. And also like if
yeah,
you're looking to conceive, surround
yes,
yourself with positive people, not those that are inflicting their negative stories on you, because all those things, right, start to
yes.
attach. And the other thing I want to touch on, Kelly, that I think is important here in this part is when these external influences are coming at you, when our energy is not centered and grounded, it's
Mm-hmm.
easier for that to encroach in our space and into
Yeah.
our psyche and energy. So that's why having whatever modality suits you to bring yourself back to that grounded center space is huge. I am a huge advocate on meditation. If you do yoga, all of those things, it's obviously my wheelhouse and what's worked for me, and I've seen it work for many others. But having these modalities, whatever it is for you, humming, singing, skipping, walking meditations are a great way to connect with nature, which also is
Mm,
healing in itself. There's so many things that you can do to support yourself. So when these outside influences start to try to creep in, you can, for lack of better words, combat them better and
yeah.
with a clearer, sharper mind, because then you're very authoritative and direct in your energy. And you'll notice that you come at these situations from more of a place of compassion.
Mm.
Like I've noticed that for me, you would never guess, I hope, but my husband's adjective to describe me when we met 17 years ago was abrasive. And I really was. I was rough
Wow.
around the edges.
Yeah.
But now, especially embodying Reiki, even I don't have to
Mm.
agree with somebody,
Yeah.
or I don't have to like, what they're saying to me about their birthing experience, but I can step back and really
Yes.
become an observer of them and their thoughts and their emotions that allows me to see them from a compassionate heart space instead of
Mm.
more of a judgmental space.
So that reminds me, yeah, I mean, and that's the most powerful part is like this is us knowing where our own triggers are or if we have any,
Mhm.
like. And I know I have two really big triggers, and I'm like, that's interesting, which is for me is the medical community and
Mm.
the school community. And I'm like, that's interesting,
Mhm.
two systems. And I'm
Mhm.
really like, I've known that, but it's like you get this physical kinesthetic reaction. And when I see a lot of different traumas, as you do too, it's interesting. And I
Mhm.
want to talk about pregnancy release for a moment because women
Mhm.
will come to me with shame and like,
Mm.
I don't
Yeah.
know, Kelly, like, they're like kind of scared, like, I don't think you're going to judge me, but that comes up. And I'm like, that's interesting because it's not my experience and I don't have any judgment. I just want people to find their own alignment and ground in. And you're right, when we are not making grounding choices in our body and we're living in the mental field, it's going to be a
Mhm.
really hard life and you're going to have a lot
Right.
of anxiety and
Yep.
fear. And it takes time. We don't want to be in our bodies because our bodies have proven to hurt us a lot. And so to integrate into nervous system safety, it's not an overnight thing. And that's why I love like yoga is a great somatic therapeutic
Mm-hmm.
tool. As well as many other things under the somatic umbrella is like we have to love ourselves enough to know we're worth grounding in and feeling safe. And
Right.
we can't talk our way through it. We have to literally be in the physiology of our body and emotion is what I'm learning, especially with a lot of the birth psychology stuff. If we've had
Mm-hmm.
pre-verbal infancy traumas, like they stay with people and they don't
Mm-hmm.
realize, like I think about the empaths that are like really strong and they're like, I can't go out and hang out with people or my day ends at 12 p.m. I'm like, that's a massive dysregulated nervous system. And you
Right.
shouldn't have to live like that. And well, how do you then get regulated? I think that's the piece, right? It's like to slowly go there because people will recoil back and be like unconsciously, right? It's like, I don't know if I could
Right.
bear the pain. It's suppressed for a reason and it's safety. And there is a
Right.
sense of love in that, right? It's like it's just the care that we give to ourselves. So,
Well, and I think touching too on we shy away when we have physical discomfort.
yeah.
But understanding that your body is communicating with you for
Mm,
a reason. Like I just was speaking with a girlfriend earlier today. She's almost 3 months postpartum.
mm,
And she was telling me how she's having these awful night sweats and this, that, and the other.
mm.
And someone had recommended for her to go back on birth control. And
Oh boy.
I didn't have I ended up apologizing because I was like, normally my filter is better than that. But I just was clearly not there at the time when we had our conversation. Um, but I apologized and said, sorry, I just blurted that out. But I just was like, no, right away, because it was just a very
Yeah.
gut, no, don't do that. And I talked to her a little bit more because she is newer on the holistic,
Yeah.
Easternized way of thinking, and she's done Reiki with me. Um, and I said, the biggest thing, if I could give you a piece of advice, would you mind? And she said, no, please. Because I always
Mm,
ask. I've
yeah.
learned, don't just stick my foot in my mouth later and just like, force
Yeah.
myself in there because that does make people upset, even though your intentions are
I
pure.
know. Yeah.
And she welcomed the advice. And I said, remember, everything is energy. And I said, really start to understand the yin and the yang energy in the body, the blood loss, that was a huge yang
Mm,
loss of energy in the body. And I said, I would highly encourage you to explore this a little further, and I'm happy to support you if you want. But your body may just be overcompensating.
yes.
And I said, did you lose a lot of blood? Because she
Yeah.
did have a traumatic birth experience. We've not even
Okay.
had the chance to talk about it. Um, and she's like, honestly, Mel, like, I just don't know. And I said,
Oh,
okay, that's fine. And it is a lot of people, right? Our
yeah.
brain likes to just
Yes.
erase
And
these
it's
things as a
depleting.
safety.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and it's depleting. I know for postpartum, it's there's so many deficiencies, right? Not just
Mm-hmm.
physically. Physically, yeah, it's a big deal emotionally, but it's like it's almost like it's okay not to know, but what can you do to care for yourself while you're just
Right.
kind of figuring it out? And it's yeah, it's like let me run and do something and but it's like wow, your body just went through birth and it like took my first I remember with my first birth, it took me like a year to
Mm-hmm.
feel like oh, like, okay, I'm getting like
Right.
literally, okay, everybody, like a year, that's 12 months. It wasn't like within a few months, I'm going back and everything's all, it was just like, okay, I was just working on so many different parts to like re-nourishing myself as a
Mm-hmm.
mother. Because before I
Right.
had no child.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think, again, adopting that keep your eyes on your own paper approach,
Yeah.
because social media, as we've discussed
Yeah.
at the very beginning of this, is a beautiful way to connect with people. But if you are one that you do compare yourself to others,
Yeah.
it can be very toxic because if somebody else is posting all these beautiful photos and they're back to their pre-baby weight and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And again, that goes back to a trigger, a body imaging for
Yeah.
you,
Which I think
then you
all of us have, Really.
Right, but
Yeah,
it's
you're
like
like, whoa.
don't
This,
immerse yourself in that.
yeah.
Have those boundaries.
Yes.
Keep your eyes on your own paper. Take your own time.
And even I
And
want to add to that, just find your own
yeah,
beauty. Find your own beauty in it.
absolutely.
Like whether your body, like I know I gained 50 pounds with each kid, and I
Hmm.
realized I felt insecure in the beginning, like, oh my gosh. But then the midwives were so beautiful. They said, your body knows how
Mm.
much it wants to gain. And I was like,
Oh, I
that
love
that blew me
that.
away because I realized I'm also 5'9". So I realized like, yeah, your body wants to gain 50, maybe 55 with the second. I knew he was going to be bigger when he was born too. That's what your body needs to gain it. And to lose
Hmm.
it, yeah, it has been more trickier, but I've also went, wow, can you fall in love with your mothering voluptuous body?
Mm.
And there is a
Hmm.
psychology because the world makes us feel like, but I've been like working like I think oh maybe I'll always be working on that. It's like I don't want to like waste time on trying to fix and it's like getting to be a certain way, but it's like just, enhancing my life in those moments. So
Right.
I know that, definitely like I wonder what the future generations will feel about so much social media because back in the day they didn't have that. It was
Mm-mm.
magazines, right? And
Right.
even like when my son was born, there was internet and social media, but I didn't have the phone. I didn't actually get one of the smartphones until my second, like was born. Because my husband's like, you
Okay.
should get one because you want to take pictures of them.
Yeah,
Or, I was like, oh,
right.
that's a good, because I had the old phone that didn't
Uh,
have that. And I was like, maybe, but I realized now that was such a blessing to not be
right.
tapped and hooked into that. And
Hmm.
we do have to watch where our energy goes. Yeah, we're in creation all the time. Like, and there's no excuses. I mean, we can play victim sometimes. I tell people it's okay to be the
Of
victim, but just
course.
but just
Yeah.
identify it.
Right.
And
Right.
then go, okay, yeah.
But identify it in a space of that's why we have to go back and start living of a space of self-awareness. Because if
Yeah.
you don't have that self-awareness, you have to understand your daily mental landscape.
Yes.
And whatever, again, modality you choose to bring you
Yeah.
to that, that is so imperative in your overall well-being because then you can have your pity party.
Yeah, there you go.
You can
Yeah,
have that. You can
exactly.
have that bad
Yes.
day. Like every
Yeah.
day is not
Yeah.
sunshine and rainbows for me. And
Yeah.
those days that I'm feeling it, I just give myself grace. I
Yes.
embrace it. I waller in it. If I'm
Yes.
grieving that day, if I'm angry that day, I try
Yeah.
not to let it ruin the entire day. But I give
Yeah.
myself that time and that space.
Yeah.
And then I have the tools because I've had the self
Yeah.
awareness now that I recognize what's having it. I'm feeling it. I'm processing it and I'm letting it go. And
Mm.
understanding too that, especially when the intrusive thoughts come,
Mm.
understanding that they are merely thoughts,
Mm.
I think is really huge. And not allowing your thoughts to identify
Mm.
you. It's
It is
just a
powerful.
thought,
Yeah.
just a thought.
And that's even good to say that, like a thought comes in, it's just a thought. Because there are a lot of women that worry or they get caught up in their mental energy. And yeah, I like that. Well, I want you to share, we're coming to the end, like just ways that people can connect with you. How can they find you and get your book again? Let's plug the book again.
Magic Mama. Yes, so my book, Magic Mama, is available on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Books a Million, any of those bookstores you can find online. And then I love, love, love connecting with people. It's just community is everything to me. So social media on Instagram is usually the best way. It's just at the Mel, Mel, and then Brown. My last name is actually spelled Braun. And you can connect with me there. My website is just melbrown.com. There's a lot of information about me, just my background, the book. There is for anyone looking to conceive or that is currently expecting or getting ready to give birth. I do have printable affirmation cards
Oh, nice.
available on my website for free downloads. There's also free YouTube videos to help you support you for prenatal yoga, some fitness, things like that. And then Reiki trainings, things like that. All the information is on my website, but definitely social media on Instagram is the easiest way to get a hold of me.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Mel. Any final love words you can share?
Final love words. this is just jumping out at me. I wanted to say something else and it was like so in my face. So somebody that's going to listen to this needs to hear this today. Give yourself grace.
Mm.
Grace is your best friend. Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Mel, for being here.
No, thank you. I really appreciate it, Kelly. This was lovely. And thank you again for everything that you're bringing to the community as well.
Awesome. And thank you all thank you for joining episode 216, Accessing Your Magic Mama, Quantum and Beyond for Healing Your Fertility into Birth. Thank you for joining Spirit Baby Radio with your host, me, Kelly Meehan. Please join my community and stay in touch with monthly energy rants, Spirit Baby poetry, and get access to Spirit Baby 101 with tips and practices at my newsletter at newearthchildren.com. And join me on Instagram with lives at Spirit Baby Medium, and join the Mighty Networks, the Spirit Baby Collective membership, and Motherhood to Mediumship. Remember, you are the heart that holds communication, and it is your time to connect. Come share in the great shift of your mind and the true spirit of your heart with Spirit Baby Communication.